lot of stories to tell. And it was when she started to tell them that she said they came alive for her. And so she went to through Toastmasters that she's been in. She got into a storytelling workshop, went there, and then found from this Portland Guild people who were enthusiastic about listening to stories, people who gave good feedback. And Gretchen is here to tell for us tonight, and we are so excited to hear her. So let me ask you to welcome Gretchen Peterson.
Thank you so much, Maggie. I really appreciate the chance to be here tonight. When Maggie heard me tell in July, I made a big deal in my introduction that I wasn't wearing makeup because it was about 80 degrees and there was no air conditioning. And I know my makeup would just fall and melt. But you are so lucky tonight that I am wearing makeup. And yesterday, I also, for y'all, I got a haircut. So I'm a great combination now of Sophia Loren and Yul Brynner. And the thing I love about these stories and these guilds is you actually know who Sophia Loren and Yul Brynner are. I really appreciate that. Well, my first story tonight has 5 parts. The first part is a familiar nursery rhyme. Mary had a little lamb. I'm going to sing the first 4 verses, and I'd like you to sing them with me. And if you don't remember, just mouth along. You'll be fine. Ready? Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, Mary went, Mary went. Everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. It followed her to school one day, school one day, school one day. It followed her to school one day, which was against the rule. It made the children laugh and play, laugh and play, laugh and play. It made the children laugh and play to see the lamb at school. Part 2. Mary on a date with an Englishman. Oh, Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? I'm so thrilled that you swiped right and that we are on this marvelous date together. And I hope you don't mind, but I've taken the liberty of ordering drinks for you. Here is a Virgin Mary and a Bloody Mary. Oh, I see you're starting on the Virgin Mary. I do like a girl who likes her tomato juice. Oh, but Mary, the name is just marvelous. It is marvelous, marvelous. It resonates throughout art, history, literature. And I have a marvelous, brilliant story about the name Mary. This is a historical story. It goes back to England, 1930s. And there was the Cunard shipping line, and they needed a name for their newest luxury liner. Now, as you know, the Cunard shipping line, all of the names of their ships end in IA, like Olympia and Britannia. Now, this is as opposed to the White Star Line, where all of the names of their ships ended in IC, like Baltic and Titanic. And one word about the Titanic. No one does sinking ships better than the British. But back to Cunard. So they needed a name and they decided on Queen Victoria ended in IA. The problem was that Victoria had died in 1901. And so they needed permission from the current king, George V. So the Cunard delegation, they arrived at Buckingham Palace and they said, "Your Majesty, we wish to name our greatest luxury liner after England's greatest queen." Now, George V was not the brightest bulb in the royal Christmas tree, but that day he had a twinkle in his blue eyes, and he stroked his beard, and he said, "England's greatest queen. My wife will be so pleased." His wife, Queen Mary, not his grandmother, Queen Victoria, which is how the greatest luxury liner ever was named, the Queen Mary. Oh, I see you're starting on the Bloody Mary. I do like a girl who likes her vodka. Now, at this point in an evening, I would usually order the appetizer, but I know that you're a pretty girl, that you are watching your figure. So at this moment, I have ordered your entree for you. Garçon, there it is, roasted leg of lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Oh, Mary, here's to us and many, many more dates. Part 3. The French chef. Mary, she has a little lamb, and it is magnifique. It is my signature dish. I roasted for 4 hours with the rosemary and the onion, and it is fabulous. It is falling off the bone. And the Englishman, he ordered for her, and I bring it out, and he sings, Mary, she has a little lamb, and something happened to Mary. She go like very pale and in a state of shock. Her eyes glaze over. But then she smelled my beautiful dish and she recovered and she eat every bite because it was magnifique. Part 4. Mary in therapy. So Mary, what would you like to discuss today? Well, doctor, when I was a girl, I had a little lamb. Uh-huh. A little lamb. I see. A little lamb. Uh-huh. Its fleece was white as snow. And how did that make you feel? Well, blinded. I mean, it was as white as snow. I could hardly see anything. And everywhere that I went, Mary, I went, the lamb was sure to go. I see, and how did that make you feel? What's everywhere? There's just lamb following me. Well, it followed me to school one day, Mary. School one day. Mary, we only have an hour. School one day, which was against the rule. And how did that make you feel? Well, terrible. I'm a rule follower. And I still can't figure out how it got on the bus. I think maybe it ran behind, it hooked its little hooves on the bumper. I don't know. But when we got there, it made the children laugh and play. Let me guess. Laugh and play. Yes, laugh and play. To see the lamb at school. Well, that sounds like it could have been traumatic, was it? I don't know. It's like the story just ends right there. I have no memory of anything that happened after that. In fact, I had forgotten about the lamb and following me to school and everything, except last week I was on a date with a complete blowhard. He was such an idiot. He's ordering my food for me. And he ordered roasted leg of lamb, and he's chortling, oh, Mary had a little lamb. And all of a sudden, it all started coming back to me. But then it just stopped. Something happened that day. I can't remember. Well, Mary, we're going to do a therapy called cognitive visualization. I'm going to put you into a trance, and we'll go back to that day and see the lamb, and we'll see what you've been repressing. Now, Mary, I want you to relax. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Now, Mary, are you there? Yes, I am. Can you see the lamb? Yes, I can. Ask it if it has anything it needs to tell you. Part 5, the lamb. Mary, Mary, that day I followed you to school, that was the day you fell in love, fell in love, fell in love. That was the day you fell in love with little Susie Q. Mary, you're gay! That's what you've been suppressing. Don't go on any more dates with men. Laugh and play, you're gay. Laugh and play, you're gay. Laugh and play, you're gay. My next story is called Romance and Juliet. Anna trembled behind the curtain as she waited for her cue. Part of her anxiety was hoping that this makeshift balcony in the high school production of Romeo and Juliet would actually hold up. But most of her excitement was because she was in love. Not just as Juliet, but as Anna. On the stage 10 feet below, she heard the scene playing out with Romeo, Benvolio, and Mercutio. Benvolio and Mercutio exited. And then Albert McElroy, playing Romeo, spoke her cue. He jests at scars that never felt a wound. Anna, Juliet, glided out into the balcony. As yet, Juliet was not yet aware of Romeo, but Anna was very aware of the audience, bathed in black, except in the front row, in the best seat in the house, dimly lit by the light from the stage, sat Giselle. Giselle was a senior, and she was so amazing. Not only was she president of the debate club, she was also head of the pep squad. She had gotten early admission to the college of her choice way before any other senior. And she had an internship already lined up for next summer in a newsroom. Because of that, she'd been voted most likely to be a weather girl. But she could be on TV. She could be a model. She was that beautiful. Well, Juliet, still unaware of Romeo, spoke into the night. Ay me. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. Juliet at last became aware of Romeo. And Anna gazed down at Albert McElroy with his floppy green hat and his Elizabethan tights that pouched out at the knees, while Juliet poured out her love to Romeo. Anna made sure those lines sailed right past Albert McElroy and landed on Giselle. Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek. My true love's passion, my bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love is deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite. Good night, good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow. Anna, Juliet exited, and the audience applauded. Anna peeked out through the curtain and saw Giselle clapping, her hands right over her heart. The next day, the morrow, Anna searched for Giselle amid the din of the cafeteria. The high-pitched giggles here, the low-pitched yelps there, and the ever-present aroma of toasted tater tots. Giselle usually sat at that table there with her pep squad friends, but she wasn't anywhere to be seen. Anna then noticed somebody standing beside her. Oh my God, oh, well, thank you. Oh, that's so nice of you. And I've seen you around, but remind me, what's your name? Oh, Lydia. Well, thank you, Lydia. Where were you sitting? Oh, in the balcony. You had your balcony seat. I had my balcony seat. Oh my gosh, well, thank you. Well, I know everything went so well, except in the third act when that tree fell over. At least it didn't hit anybody. Oh, well, thank you so much, Lydia. I really appreciate it. Oh, and you're coming again tonight. Well, that's a real compliment. Thank you. Okay, see you in the balcony. Anna felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned around and there was Giselle, who gathered her up in a huge hug. Oh, Anna, oh my God, you were amazing. I don't know how you remember all those lines, especially Shakespeare, blah, 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 blah. It's like a foreign language. And the audience loved you. Oh my God, and thank you so much for the ticket. That was so nice. It was weird. The seats on either side, they were empty, but it was like I was right up there in the play. And I know I said I was going to come see you after the play, but yesterday afternoon I got a call from Chad, president of the student body. Student body is right. I wouldn't mind seeing him in those Elizabethan tights. He'd fill them out better than Albert McElroy, if you know what I mean. Oh my God, you're blushing, Anna. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to embarrass you. Well, I've had a crush on Chad for forever. And he called me yesterday. I got through your play, and then we went on a date. It was just magical. And thank you so much for the ticket for tonight, but I'm going out again with Chad, but I know you'll do great. What's that good luck thing they say in the theater? Trip and fall, or I'll break your heart, or, no, I know, break a leg. Okay, goodbye. Lydia trembled in the balcony. She was so excited to be at the second performance of Romeo and Juliet. Every time Anna was on stage, her heart was right down there with her. Anna was amazing. She was only a junior, and already she had the lead in the play. She was in the choir on the honor. And Lydia knew that if there had been a Hollywood talent scout at last night's performance, Anna would have gotten a movie contract like that. She was that good. And Lydia couldn't believe it. But she'd actually gotten the courage during lunch to go up to Anna and tell her how great her performance was. And Anna was just so nice and gracious and beautiful. And it was time now for Lydia's favorite scene, the balcony scene. Lydia hadn't told anybody, but she had memorized all of Romeo's lines so that she could feel like she was playing the scene with Anna, Juliet. He jests at scars that never felt a wound, but soft. What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. See how she leans her hand upon her cheek. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. With love's light wings did I o'er-perch these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out. Lydia couldn't believe it, but Anna's performance was even better tonight than it had been the night before. Oh, Lydia wished that talent scout was at this performance. Oh, blessed, blessed night. I am afeard, being in night. All this is but a dream. The scene ended. Anna, Juliet exited. And just like the night before, the audience applauded, Lydia clapping right over her heart. Even as Romeo's lines echoed in her mind. Oh, blessed, blessed night. I am afeard, being in night. All this is but a dream. But Lydia hoped. Lydia prayed. Lydia knew that someday, it would be real. I have an addendum to that story. The campus where I work has lots of parking spaces. And there's one space of the parking lot that is usually empty. And I go and I practice my stories, walking around and around. Well, it's also a place where student drivers go and they practice driving. Well, I was practicing this story during the summertime, and the parking lot was empty, and I noticed something on the ground. I picked it up, and it was a driver's license. And I looked at it more closely, and it was a driver's license for a teenage girl, her learner's permit. I thought, oh my gosh, she lost it. They're just going nuts. So her address was on there. It was almost time for me to go home. So after work, I took that license and I drove to the house. And I rang the doorbell, and the main door had wood on the bottom and it was glass on the top. And I see these feet coming down the stairs, and the mother came, and I held up the learner's permit, and she opened the door, just so grateful. Oh my gosh, she said, you cannot believe it. There's been tears and drama and weeping. And I said, thinking of my story that I've been practicing, I said, I know how emotional teenage girls can get. And she said, no, that was me. So my beautiful Romance and Juliet, I dedicate to teenage girls and their mothers. My final story tonight is called Cassiopeia Confessed. Come with me to a cool summer night. Crickets chirp. The sky is as black and shiny as all of those crickets. It was a night like this when I was just a child that my mother pointed out 5 stars in the shape of a W, the constellation of Cassiopeia. Come with me and listen to the Greek myth of Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia, queen of Ethiopia, boasted she was more beautiful than the Nereids. The Nereids, sea nymphs, goddesses. Oh, how foolish for a mortal woman to boast she was more beautiful than the gods. Poseidon, god of the sea, turned his wrath on Ethiopia. Cassiopeia and her husband Cepheus consulted the oracle what to do to assuage the wrath of the gods. The terrible answer: sacrifice your daughter Andromeda to the sea monster. Poor innocent Andromeda, chained to a cliff beside the sea. When Perseus, the Greek hero, riding his winged horse Pegasus, saw Andromeda, fell in love, rescued her, and killed the sea monster. But Poseidon was still angry with Cassiopeia. He scooped her up and threw her into the sky, where she transformed into 5 stars in the shape of a W. And in that shape, the Greeks saw Cassiopeia sitting on a chair, holding a mirror, symbol of her vanity. Come with me to my work cubicle, November 2018. My computer monitors glowed here, and I was working, but over here, I solved the New York Times crossword puzzle. Now, in the Oregonian, the New York Times crossword puzzle is on the same page as the classifieds. And what's for sale these days in the newspaper? Dogs. Poodles, German shepherds, French bulldogs. Well, with that brigade of dogs looking on, I began to notice a theme in the puzzle. The clue was hoodwink. The answer, hoax. The clue was scans for fractures. The answer was X-rays. One end of a maze, exit. Das Kapital, author, Marx. She responds to voice commands, Alexa. Then there was this, 18 across. Sea nymphs from Greek mythology, the Nereids. 63 across. Vain queen who boasted she was more beautiful than 18 across. Cassiopeia. 3 down. Country ruled by 63 across before her punishment. Ethiopia. And finally, 41 down. God, who banished 63 across to the sky to form the constellation as seen by the X's in this puzzle's finished grid. The answer was Poseidon. And there were those 5 X's in the crossword puzzle in the shape of a W. Never before or since have I had a moment of transcendentalism while I'm solving a crossword puzzle. Well, that puzzle stayed with me, along with all of those dogs. And many months later, I painted a painting. I took the grid of that crossword puzzle. Each box was 1 inch square. And in the boxes where you would put the letters, I instead painted portraits of all of those dogs who are for sale in the newspaper. And when I had finished, I had painted 252 dogs. And I had also come up with a new version of the story of Cassiopeia. One with a twist and with 252 dogs. Come with me and listen to that story. Cassiopeia confessed. Cassiopeia confessed. Cassiopeia, with her faithful dog Star by her side, whose belly was swollen with unborn pups, confessed. Cassiopeia confessed to her husband, Cepheus. They were in her bedchamber, and Cepheus said, Cassiopeia, we have been married many years, but you have never been more beautiful. And Cassiopeia confessed, I am more beautiful because of the Nereids. She then told her husband this story, that for her whole life, she felt a great sadness and melancholy, a deep, deep pain in her soul, so horrific that she wished to end her life. She walked out to the cliff beside the sea and gazed down at the sharp rocks and the waves crashing. And she contemplated ending her life. But as she gazed down, she was amazed that one by one, the waves turned into the sea nymphs, the Nereids, these beautiful goddesses. And they sang in a chorus and they said, Great Queen, do not kill yourself. Do not throw yourself into the sea. You will die, but your sorrow will cling to us forever. Well, Cassiopeia heard their beautiful words and she gazed at their beautiful faces and she felt the deep sadness lifting from her as she fell in love with every single goddess. And she felt this glorious truth that she loved women. Well, brought back to light and life and hope, she returned to the palace. And she said to her husband, yes, Cepheus, I am more beautiful because of the Nereids. Now, naturally enough, Cepheus wished to enjoy his wife's beauty. He leaned to kiss her, but she turned aside and said, no more of that. My love is chaste, and the love I do have belongs only to the Nereids. Just at that moment, her faithful dog Star by her side, whose belly was swollen with unborn pups, yelped. Labor had begun. Star and Cassiopeia dismissed Cepheus. Cepheus was furious as he stalked back to his bedchamber. And he paced, how humiliating to be dismissed by his wife and that dog. Cassiopeia must be punished, but how? Well, as he contemplated her punishment, puppies were being born. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Cepheus hit on a monstrous idea. He took an empty jar and a pitcher of water and poured the water into the jar. He then whispered into the jar, Cassiopeia, queen of Ethiopia, boasts she is more beautiful than the Nereids. As he sealed that jar, more puppies were being born. 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, he gave that jar to his servant, and he said, take this jar to the sea, throw it in to the water. He knew that it would break open, and that lie would reach the gods. Oh, and then the punishment that would rain down on Cassiopeia. Well, the servant rushed off to the sea. And as he did, more puppies were born. 9, 10, 11, 12. But then the servant tripped and he dropped the jar. It fell onto the ground, broke open, and all of the water seeped into the earth. All except for that lie. It was transformed into a shimmering bead of mercury, hissing. Cassiopeia, queen of Ethiopia, boasts she is more beautiful than Nereids. Well, that bead of mercury, that lie, it slithered to the top of a blade of grass. Well, the fog descended. And when the fog lifted, it took that bead of mercury high up into the sky. Come with me now as we leave Ethiopia and follow the journey of that bead of mercury. Well, the winds and the clouds carried that bead of mercury east, across the sea, across deserts and forests, until it descended into the land of Pinyin, a place we know as China. Well, it stayed quite a while, and being a lie, it caused quite a bit of havoc until one day the fog descended, and when the fog lifted, it carried that bead of mercury high up into the sky, where it carried it east across a great ocean and sands and canyons until it descended into the land of Halona Idiwana, a place we know as New Mexico. Well, that bead of mercury, it stayed quite a while, and being a lie, it caused quite a bit of havoc until one day the fog descended, and when the fog lifted, it carried that bead of mercury high up into the sky, where the winds and the clouds carried it east across great plains and forests and another sea until it descended into the frozen land of Skoina, a place we know as Scandinavia. Well, that bead of mercury stayed quite a while, and being a lie, it caused quite a bit of havoc until one day the frozen fog descended and carried that bead of mercury high up into the sky, where the winds and the clouds carried it southeast, where it hovered off the coast of Ethiopia. Come with me now as we return to Ethiopia. Well, in that bead of mercury's long journey around the world, all of those puppies of that faithful dog Star had grown up and had puppies of their own, and had puppies of their own, and had puppies of their own, until, including Star, there were 252 dogs. Well, that bead of mercury, that lye, it plopped down into the sea. And it exploded into 1,000 tiny beads of mercury, each one hissing that line. Cassiopeia, queen of Ethiopia, boasts she is more beautiful than the Nereids. Well, those beads of mercury, they roiled the waves, and those waves crashed into the Nereids. And the Nereids were furious. Cassiopeia, was this not the queen they had saved? Or they complained to Poseidon, and Poseidon, he turned his wrath on Ethiopia. Well, in all of this time, Cepheus had wondered what had happened to the lie he had sent out into the world. It wasn't like the gods to ignore something like that. But when he heard that Poseidon was angry with Cassiopeia, he had to hide his glee behind a mask of concern. Well, he and Cassiopeia and that faithful dog Star consulted the oracle what to do to assuage the wrath of the gods. The answer: sacrifice your daughter Andromeda to the sea monster. Cepheus sputtered. No, the gods are angry with my wife, not my daughter. Sacrifice your daughter Andromeda to the sea monster. No, that can't be. Please, there has to be another way. Sacrifice your daughter Andromeda to the sea monster. Well, at last, Cepheus broke down, and he confessed the terrible lie he had sent out into the world. He confessed to the oracle, to Cassiopeia, to the faithful dog Star. And the oracle answered, sacrifice your daughter Andromeda to the sea monster. Poor innocent Andromeda, chained to a cliff beside the sea, awaiting her terrible fate. When Perseus, the Greek hero, riding his winged horse Pegasus, saw Andromeda, fell in love, rescued her, and killed the sea monster. But Poseidon was still angry with Cassiopeia. He gathered the Nereids, and they sloshed and swam and surfed towards Ethiopia. Well, that faithful dog Star, she heard that tsunami of hate approach, and she began to bark, falling from all over the palace, all over the city, all over Ethiopia, her descendants, until in the palace, Poseidon, the Nereids, Cassiopeia, Cepheus, and 252 dogs. Poseidon leveled his murderous gaze at Cassiopeia. Vain queen, speak your boast. Poor Cassiopeia. She looked past Poseidon and saw the faces of the Nereids, the goddesses, the women she loved. And they were twisted in hatred and fury. And her husband, the feckless Cepheus, babbling, I'm so sorry about all of this, but please, just say the lie. It'll be all right. You might be punished, but Ethiopia will be saved. Cassiopeia spoke. I, Cassiopeia, queen of Ethiopia, am more beautiful. But before she could say the word then, 252 dogs started barking and arfing and howling. Poseidon silenced them. Vain queen, speak your boast. I, Cassiopeia, queen of Ethiopia, am more beautiful. But before she could say the word then, 252 dogs were arfing and barking and howling. Poseidon silenced them. This happened 11 more times. But each time the barking fell into more and more of a cadence, a rhythm. Cassiopeia spoke. I, Cassiopeia, Queen of Ethiopia, am more beautiful because of the Nereids. Truth filled the room. Cepheus broke down and confessed to everyone the terrible lie he had sent out into the world. And Cassiopeia saw the faces of the Nereids change from hatred and scorn to puzzlement, understanding, forgiveness, and love. But Poseidon had been made a fool by a mortal woman and by dogs. He scooped up Cassiopeia and he threw her into the sky. As her body of flesh and blood and bones and hair transformed into stardust, one of the Nereids threw her a mirror, and she transformed into 5 stars in the shape of a W. Cassiopeia sitting on a chair, holding a mirror, not to look at herself, but to see in its reflection on the earth, on the sea, her beloved Nereids. But Poseidon was not finished. He wielded his trident and he scooped up 252 dogs and he threw them into the sky, where they transformed into the brightest star in the night, Sirius, also known as the Dog Star. Come with me tonight, and let us gaze up into the sky at Cassiopeia and the Dog Star. They shine at night because of the Nereids. Thank you so much. What a delight to share my stories with you. I so appreciate you as an audience, and I have something for each of you. I do have a picture of that painting of Cassiopeia and all of those dogs, which I will be handing out. Zoomers, most of you know me. If you don't have one, you can talk to me later. Thank you again so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gretchen. Well, as I mentioned, we do have professional storytellers in the group, so thank you for coming up from Portland and giving us quite a variety of tales. So we're going to take about a 10-minute break right now, and then we'll regather. We've got some folks who want to swap some stories. And Zoomers, if anybody wants to swap a story, let Brett know, okay? Be happy to take. And thank you. And we also Brett and Annie have worked quite hard, and we've got a grant from Olympia for giving more art to the world, right? So Inspire Olympia. So that really helps us out a lot. We are working on Fanning the Embers, which is coming up April 4th, 5th, and 6th. And Rebecca in Walla Walla is the head honcho and the coordinator for that again. We have 22 spaces, and on January 6th, the registration will be opening, first come, first serve, and it's worth the $275 just to go and eat the food, I think, but also to listen to the stories. So watch out for that. Our next story swap will be on second Wednesday in January, of course, which is January 8th. You want to mark that on your calendars. It'll still be here at the Harbor House, so we hope to see you. The opening teller will be Ann Shiwajima, and featured teller will be Sandra in the back. So that will be a great day. We've got one other announcement, and that is Storioli. How many people here have been to Storioli before? About half of you? Okay, I hope to go one of these days. It's on a Tuesday night. December 17th will be the next one, 7 p.m. over at the Brotherhood Lounge. Now, that sounds like a place where you got to show up on your Harley, but it isn't. It's really pretty good. And it's great. So please go and see that. Our website is being redesigned, so it's going to be even better. And that's about all of the commercial announcements. Anybody else got anything to announce? Okay. Well,
No,
we're gonna
wait,
move on
I
to
do.
story swap. Go ahead. Rebecca, go ahead, Rebecca.
I just wanted to add in on fanning the embers. Because of that Inspire Oli grant, we do have some extra funds for folks who want to think about a scholarship to help defray part of the cost of registration. So go on to the Fanning the Embers website. If you are interested in that, please send some email to me by December 18th. So we can see who is gonna get a scholarship. Additional scholarships.
Right.
More about what that is.
About what?
Fanning the embers.
Fanning the Embers is up at Union. It's in St. Andrew's Retreat. They have a beautiful home. It's 3 days. It's a site owned by the Episcopal Diocese in Seattle, I believe. But it is booked off year round, and they've just expanded. They've bought the area that used to be called Harmony House right next door.
They bought it?
So that is another thing that has changed. And they've got a chef always up there who buys food locally, if you like that, organic or whatever you want. And again, the food is, like I said, really fantastic. So we go up there, they've got, go ahead. Right, and we have one workshop. We have storytelling events every day where everybody gets a chance to tell a story. And we also have peer groups where we can get together and just work on stories that maybe we haven't worked on before.
And it's 3 days?
Yes, come in on a Friday and leave on a Sunday after brunch.
It's beautiful there.
Yeah.
I
So-
stayed at Harmony Hill, that's right next.
Right. Yep. So it's a beautiful site and everything, so go ahead.
We had my mom's memorial service there in May. And it was a beautiful spot, wonderful food. I would love to do an overnight up there. We just had it for the day, but they have these wonderful rooms of all sorts of configurations.
Yes,
So
they do.
it would be well worth the visit.
Right, and they've changed it too, so nobody has to sleep on a top bunk anymore. They got rid of all the top bunks, so,
They did.
yeah, nobody has a top bunk. Also, we usually have the cabin down on the water, which is on pilings down there, sitting right on Hood Canal too, so that's good. So anyway, it's a great thing, so that'll be opening up on January 6th, so if you want to come, please do so, and like Rebecca said, if you'd say, well, $275 is a little too steep, but I'd like to go, please send her an email in December and let her know that.
Thanks,
Okay,
Stan.
tonight we've got 3 storytellers in the swap, I believe. Go ahead, Brett.
I think Rebecca has something else to say.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Nope, I just said thank you.
Oh.
That's all.
You're very, very welcome. So we've got 3 people in the story swap tonight, and then we're gonna go over to the Olympia Tap House and get some pizza and whatever else they have for refreshments. So please join us over there. It's a lot of fun. Okay, our first up tonight, Bowen Lee is going to be telling us a story, I think. So please come on up. I believe this is your first time. Isn't it, Bowen? I believe this is your first storytelling with this group, right?
Yes.
Okay, please, thank you.
Thank you, Steph.
You're good.
Okay, I just gotta check.
We can back up just a little bit.
All right, thanks. Okay, perfect. This is a story from China that I got from Sheila Wee from Singapore. There are two villages across from each other, separated by a river. In one village, the village of Wei, they are farmers. They only grow one crop, melons. But oh, what melons they are. In the summer, watermelons, enormous, juicy, sweet as sugar. In the winter, huge melons feed many families, make the perfect soup. And the reputation of these melons, people come from far, far, far away to buy them at market for very excellent prices. So that means that the people of Wei do very well. The other village, the village of Chu, they are also farmers. And they also grow melons. But the reputation for these melons are quite the opposite. They're small and dry and tasteless. Only the poor people buy these melons. And so therefore, the farmers of Chu are themselves poor. One night, some of the farmers of Chu got together, men, drinking together late at night. Oh, our crops are so poor this year, even poorer than before. Yeah, did you see what happens over there on the across the river? Those melons that the Wei have, those people in Wei, they're gonna be so, I can't stand how they are. They're just like, they got everything. They just look down on us. It ain't fair. It ain't fair. It's just, they have all of that. They have all of that and we have nothing. We gotta do something about that. Yeah, I say, let's do something tonight, now. So, drunken farmers from Chu cross the bridge with staves and clubs and knives. They go to the fields of Wei and they smash and they chop and they destroy every single melon in the field. In the morning, the people of Wei go to the fields and they see what have happened. Have such anger. Oh, why did it, we have to do something. Let's go and smash their melons too. But fortunately, there was a very wise old man who lived in Wei, and he cautioned them not to do that. Your fathers and your grandfathers and your great-grandfathers before you, they all lived in peace. They all lived in peace with the villagers of Chu. We've been in harmony all these generations. You go and smash their melons. You retaliate. We're gonna have enemies for the first time. No, I suggest that what you do is you trade your sticks and your knives for your water containers. Grab your water containers. Water the melons of the farmers of Chu. Show them when to water, how much to water, why you should water, how to take care of those melons. And then when they go to sell their melons at the marketplace, they'll get just as much as we do. Well, the farmers of Wei were still very angry, but they saw the reason in what the old man said. So they took their water containers and they crossed the bridge and they began to water the melons in Chew. The people of Chew, they were shaken, they were afraid. What are you doing? Are you poisoning us? No, the farmers of Wei explained to them how to take care of your melons, how to grow large, juicy, delicious melons. And so by the time the melons were ready for market, the people of Chew got very good prices for them. And so it was throughout the years that both the melons of Wei and the melons of Chew had great reputations and the villages prospered. Very soon, you may find all of your hard work and all of your values smashed and destroyed, demolished. So this is what T.H. White, who wrote The Once and Future King, said. You may see the world about you devastated by evil lunatics, or know your honor trampled in the sewers of baser minds. There's only one thing for it then, to learn. Learn why the world wags and what wags it. That is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never regret. Between T.H. White, we should, when this happens to us, and it will, we should learn. And we should also take the words of the wise man from Wei. We should teach, learn, and teach.
Thank you, Bowen. Things to ponder. So our next storyteller is Maggie. Maggie, where are you? There you are. Yeah. Would you like to- That's you.
Okay,
Yep, you're up.
okay,
There you go.
all right,
You know Maggie.
okay. All right. I remember when I was a girl, lying on the floor with all my family around me, watching the TV at my grandma's house at Christmas time. And it was a reenactment of O. Henry's The Gift of the Magi. And I remember being fascinated with the story, and I always remembered it. And then I read a version of that story in a little book called The Gift of Story by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And this is that story. Long time ago, long years ago, in Eastern Europe, there was a village. And this village had been overrun by war year after year after year, and the war had only recently receded. And there lived in this village a young couple, a beautiful but poor young woman married to an equally poor and handsome young man. And it was nearing the holiday time of year when gifts were customarily exchanged, and this young couple were very hard pressed because they wanted to give each other some gift to show their love, their devotion, but through the war, they had lost so much. They did have two fine possessions. The young man, through the war, had been able to hold on to his grandfather's pocket watch And he was very proud to pull it out and show anyone the time who would ask for it. And the young woman, though she had been so ill-fed for so long, she still had long, beautiful hair, lustrous, with glints of gold and ruby in her hair. It was so long it fell to her knees like silken floss. Now it was that people came back to the village after the war, and they began to look for their homes, to see what was left, to eke out a living, working what they could. The farmer took the dead stalks and cut and thrashed them to get seed to replant. The tailor begged for scraps of cloth to make patchwork quilts, and vests, and coats. The baker grew grain and made tiny loaves of bread to sell out the door. And merchants gathered little thises and little thats to sell, to make a few pennies. And the young woman there in their tiny rented room was pacing back and forth. What could she give her husband? She only had 2 pennies. She had worked so hard and tried to save, but they had so little. She began to cry. She was so frustrated. She knew what she wanted to get him, but she didn't have enough. And then tears came, and right away she knew that would not do to get her husband a gift. She did know what she could do, but she had to make a resolution. And she nodded to herself, put on her warm coat, and went out into the dark night. It was winter, the dark came, the snow flew. She walked through the mud, down the dark streets. People had oil and rag candles set in the windowsills to light the way. She went down an alley and then up into a 3-story building, a drab, unheated building. She knew the way. And there was the door, and she knocked. The door opened, and it was the oddest looking woman you have ever seen. Madame Sophie. Orange hair sticking out every which way, black, thick eyebrows painted on, but her skin ghostly white. Madame Sophie had been well off before the war, making wigs for wealthy men and women. Ah, have you come to sell your hair? She pulled the young woman in and lifted her heavy tresses of beautiful hair. What wigs she could make with this. And the two began to bicker about a price. And when they agreed, she pushed the young woman into a straight back chair, picked up her heavy black iron shears, and snip, snip, snip. And the young woman's hair fell to the ground along with her tears. Madame Sophie greedily gathered up the shorn hair, dropped some coins into the young woman's hand, barely pushed her out into the hall, and slammed the door. That was that. The young woman counted the coins in her hand. And then an inner vision came to her, what she was going to get for her husband and how excited and how proud she would be to give it to him and how wonderful it would be for him to have this gift. She hurried down the steps, out into the dark night, running along the streets, past this shop, past that shop, and then there was the clockmaker's shop. She opened the door and the little bell jingled and the clerk came from behind the curtain. Oh, do you have the money? She held out all the coins that she had earned. And he brought out the watch chain. Ah, there it was. Oh, it would look so beautiful on his watch. It would certainly be finer than that simple string he had tied to his pocket watch. It was lead, but covered with a silvery tin. The clerk took her money and she took the watch chain. And she hurried home as fast as she could, her feet barely touching the ground, running lightly, like the angel that she was from the sacrifice she made. All the while, her husband was out shopping on his own for her, looking for just the right gift for his loved one, his wife, who he loved so. But what could he find? He looked here in this shop and that window. No, that wouldn't do, no. And then he saw them. 2 combs. Some lustrous material. They would be beautiful in her dark hair. How he loved her long hair with a glint of color in it. Oh, these would be beautiful. One was perfect, but only one had 1 tooth missing. He showed them to the vendor. That's 20 pennies there for those. Those are fine combs, 20 pennies. But I don't have 20 pennies. Well, what do you have then? And the two began to haggle back and forth. Meanwhile, his wife was back in their rented room, looking in the mirror. Oh no. Oh, I hope he'll still find me lovely in my own way. I hope he'll still love me with my hair so short. She tried to moisten her hair and tried to make some curls. And she paced back and forth, waiting anxiously for him to return. And then she heard his footsteps. And the door opened, and there he was, dear, dear husband. Poor soul, rail thin, red nose, icy fingered. But he stood and stared at her, dumbfounded, standing stock still. Oh, husband, come in, do come in. I cut my hair so a good of it could come for you. Please come in. Please, don't you think I'm still beautiful? He was stuck there in between pain and hilarity, and he finally burst out with a big laugh, and he came in and he hugged her and he held her tight. Dear one, he said, and he pulled the combs out of his pocket. This is my gift for you for the holiday. And she saw the 2 combs, and at first her face brightened, but then immediately her face fell and she began to sob. And he said, don't cry. Your hair will grow out in time, and these combs will be lovely then. Don't cry. Let us be happy. Well, she brightened up and filled with excitement, she pulled out the watch chain she had for him. Look, husband, look. I got you this. Put it on your watch. Let's see how it looks. Here you go. But her husband didn't take it. He began to walk back and forth and laughing again. Finally, he stopped and looked at her. Do you know, I sold my watch to buy your combs. You did? You did? I did. I did. And they held each other and they laughed and they cried and they laughed and they cried and they promised each other the future would be better. Surely it would. Things are going to turn out all right. Some might say that this young couple were foolish and unwise to have sacrificed so much. But I would say that they are like the Magi who went seeking the Messiah, for they took with them gifts, very valuable gifts that they thought would be the right thing, gold and frankincense and myrrh. But it was what was in their heart, their love and their devotion, their yearning, that was, after all, the best gift. Just like this young couple, for they gave each other the most golden of all things possible. They gave their love and their devotion and their yearning. And that was all that was necessary. It was enough. It was the wisest gift of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. So tonight, we're gonna have a wrap up. Jerry's going to be giving us a tale. Jerry? You are gonna tell us something, right?
I do.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Hang on.
Well, thank you. So my haircut's a couple of weeks old. I have no makeup unless you count maybe the moisturizer and lotion that I use every morning. But tonight I'm going to tell you a story that comes from the Navajo tradition, the Diné people. And these are the people, their reservation, as many of you know, is down in Arizona and trails off into Nevada, out in the desert country. Now, the Diné people tell their stories just like we're doing right now in the wintertime. It's usually dark and cold there in the desert during that time of year. So they gather together in their homes and in their dwelling places. And they use these tales to communicate their values and their morals. And tonight, the story I'm going to tell you is a trickster tale, but it involves not one, but two tricksters. And these stories, they always seem to have some moral to them. Now, as I read this tale, and I read through it several times, I came up with several morals to this story. So I'm going to tell you the story, and you can decide what the moral is. So Coyote, he was out hunting one day, walking through the woods, hunger gnawing at his stomach. He spies Rabbit. Oh, what a tasty meal Rabbit would be. And lickety split, he starts chasing Rabbit. But Rabbit, with his powerful hind legs and his quick forelegs, dashes this way and that way. He goes up the hill and over and down. But Coyote was relentless in his pursuit. He finally gets Rabbit cornered by these rocks. But Rabbit finds a hole. Down he goes into that hole. Coyote stands at the entrance and says, Rabbit, you come out now and meet your fate, as if there will be a problem here. Now Rabbit looked at Coyote and looked up and said, oh, Coyote, no, that's not going to work. Coyote thought, I'm going to get you out of there. So he starts thinking, how am I going to get this rabbit out of there? And that beady-eyed, long-nosed Coyote comes up with a plan. He looks down, he says, Rabbit, I'm going to get some weeds. I'm going to put them in the front of your hole. I'm gonna set them on fire, and then you'll have to come out. Or you might even die inside that hole that I've got you trapped in. Says, Rabbit, how about I bring some milkweed and set those on fire? Oh, but Rabbit says, milkweed? That's one of my favorite meals. Why, before you even have the match lit, I'll gobble up all that milkweed that you put at the front of my hole, and there will be no fire. Coyote was taken aback, not to be outsmarted by Rabbit. He thought some more. He said, Rabbit, I'm gonna go get some foxgrass. Oh, it burns fast. It burns hot. Surely that will make you come out, or maybe it'll even kill you. Rabbit, arrogant little rabbit, said, oh, foxgrass. That's what I eat every day. Bring it to the entrance, and I'll devour it. Oh, Coyote was stumped again. Not wanting to be outdone by the rabbit, he thought, I know. Rabbit brush. Rabbit, I'm going to gather some rabbit brush, bring it to the front of the hole, stuff it in. Oh, those tender leaves and those prickly branches, surely that'll catch fire and bring you out of there. Rabbit, again in his most arrogant tone, says, Coyote, what's wrong with you? Rabbit brush. What about that do you not understand? It's what the Creator put on earth to sustain us rabbits. It's my favorite meal. It'll be gone before it even hits the ground. Coyote, relentless, thought, this is not gonna work. If I've got him in that hole, I'm gonna have my way. Coyote looks around, thinks, those beady eyes shifted from side to side, looking for a solution. He spies the pinyon pine tree, and he notices the pitch and the sap on the tree. There's what I'll use. Rabbit, what if I get some pitch from that pinyon pine tree? I'll gather it up, gather some bark together, put it in the front of the hole, set it on fire. It burns hot, it burns fast, and you'll be dead, or you'll have to run, and I'll catch you. Rabbit was taken aback. He had no answer. Coyote, he liked that. No response. So Coyote gathers up the pine and the pitch, sets it in the front of the tree, lights his in front of the hole. He lights his match, and slowly it starts to burn. Coyote knows how to deal with the fire. He goes over and he blows on it. It burns a little bit more. Rabbit's inside, trying to think. His mind is just racing, trying to figure out a solution here. He thinks the end is near for him. Thinks and thinks. The flames start burning. He says, Coyote, I'm dying in here. I'm almost dead. Can you make this death come quicker? So take a deep breath, come close to the fire and blow hard so the fire will be hot. The smoke will be intense and it'll kill me much faster. Oh, Coyote could just about taste the rabbit then. He was so pleased with himself. So he takes a deep breath. He goes very close and Rabbit says, come closer and blow harder. And so Coyote blows as hard as he can. The embers glow. The bark is sparking. The smoke is coming. And just like that, Rabbit turns around with his powerful hind legs, kicks those sparks and embers into Coyote's face, and races off, laughing and chuckling at Mr. Coyote. So there you have it. Two tricksters. One outsmarting the other. This time, the moral of the story isn't for you to tell me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up tonight. Gretchen would like to thank you for coming up from Portland and giving us 3 wonderful tales, and also your storytelling architect. And Bowen, thank you for telling a story for us tonight, and we hope you'll come back and do some more. And Maggie, of course, you're always on target with everything. So thank you. A gift of the Magi coming up on Christmas and everything. And Jerry with your trickster tales, the native tales, we enjoyed that too. So especially enjoy all of you who came to listen. We've got the building here for a little while, so if you'd like to sit and talk, feel free to do so while we wrap it up. I'm gonna run over and order a couple pizzas to get things going. So anybody that'd like to come over and have a piece of pizza, please come and have some with us, okay? And remember, next Tuesday, Storioli at the Brotherhood Lounge. Elizabeth Lord will be emceeing that. She's great. And then our second Wednesday in January, we'll be right back here. And if you're interested in fanning the embers, ask any of us about how that works, and we'd be glad to give you a little rundown on it. So anything else before we go?
Thank you all for coming, and thank everybody on Zoom for coming.
Oh, yeah, you folks up there too. Thank you. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, that's a wrap.
Hi Pam, hi Ann.
Press, you might not be.